Welcome back, everyone, to the fourth episode of Geek Talk, which is a highly weekly podcast. With the last episode that was published 7 months ago, for reasons that are definitely not my fault. Uh, as always, we are Odie and Tag, and it's great to have you here.
Yes, our consistency is the name of the game for us, as you can all see. And we are definitely going to release all these videos at the same time, probably. So at least you'll have something to watch. So that's good.
Yeah, that is so. Even though this is practically episode 4 because of the relevancy of the topic, which we will discuss today. We're probably going to be uploading this one with priority because let's be real, you've read the title of the video, and likely 1 week from now, no one's gonna be talking about this anyway because that's how the internet works. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have to somehow get on the bandwagon, maybe steal two whole views from other creators.
Bandwagon choo choo. Let's go.
The hype train
The
begins,
hype
or
train. Yeah.
the
So
hate train.
yeah, today's topic, Dragon Age, the Veilguard, has released, I think, 3 days ago now, when we're
Uh,
recording this episode.
yeah, yeah, something like that. 31st of October. So right on Halloween. Spooky shit.
And it was spooky indeed. They really knew when to release it because it definitely scared me.
Yeah, it symbolizes Halloween perfectly. The trick or treat aura is strong with this one.
Yeah, so Dragon Age the Veilguard is a video game that exists.
Yes, that's the end of the episode, guys. See you in the next one.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode.
No controversies here. Just we
Um,
said everything that's good about the game. The title.
Exactly the title, and it's also playable. And actually, Tag, from a technical standpoint, everyone is saying it runs very well. So hey, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, it's a game that runs. Thank you.
Well, yes, credit where credit is due. Indeed, the game runs, and in
Yes.
this day and age, it's actually something that comes with praise, even though it shouldn't, because games should be fully functional at release, in my opinion. But given some recent or not so recent releases that had major issues at launch, at least this one doesn't. So thanks, BioWare.
Yeah, you are absolutely on point there. It is, well, depressing that we're praising video games for launching and for having good frame rates per second.
Yeah,
But
yes, in the playable rate. Oh my god, yes.
yeah, it's not
Where
even.
have we reached?
You're right. We're not even praising them for having good frame rates. It's playable. That's that's the point we're at right now. But I will say that this is more so related to the AAA space, and a lot of indie and AA developers have been pushing out games that run reasonably or really very well on modern hardware.
Which is crazy to think about. No, at the end of the day, I mean, these are multi-million dollar companies that cannot even test the game properly before release, which is kind of insane.
Yep. That is very much insane to me too. And I was just looking at the numbers actually for Dragon Age Inquisition, and I think I'm gonna be segueing us into the topic this way. So in 2014, Dragon Age Inquisition launched with
2014, 10 years ago.
yeah, it was 10 years. So welcome to the future.
Oh, I'm getting old. I feel it.
Then I'm thinking about it another way. So in the last 10 years, I changed cities twice. I finished, I started and finished my college. I actually started, dropped out, then got the job, then got in a college again. I had 5 jobs during this time. And besides all of this happening and Duncan dying for all of us in Dragon Age Origins, we still got whatever Dragon Age the Veilguard is today. And if you think about it this way, it's not good, man. It's not good.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, when I played Inquisition, I was still in high school. That's pretty mind blowing to think about there. But okay, let's not reminisce about the past. The important thing is that this game came out, and honestly, it had the odds stacked against it almost since it was announced. Don't you agree?
It did because yeah. So I mean, I just spoiled something from Origins, but Origins by this point is 15 years old. And we're gonna put like a little warning in the title because I think we do need to talk about spoilers a bit about the Dragon Age franchise to really outline where we're at right now from a storytelling perspective, a dialogue perspective, a world building perspective. And by the time Inquisition and the DLC Trespasser had wrapped up, they really set up this amazing potential conflict with Solus being the Dread Wolf, Fen'Harel, and how that will have implications for the story. And then I think EA forced onto BioWare making Anthem, and they did whatever Mass Effect Andromeda was. And I think it just got stuck in development hell for a good time there, right?
It definitely sounds like that, to be honest, especially because both Anthem and Andromeda were not received well, especially Anthem. Well, let's say Andromeda had maybe some following. Some people did not hate it, but Anthem, I think it was universally hated by everybody. I mean, BioWare making a looter shooter just doesn't seem like them. So,
Even from a business perspective, you have this studio who makes great RPGs. Oh, you know what? Give them the looter shooter. Why?
yeah, because that's trendy right now.
I mean, yeah, but even then, I forget exactly when Anthem launched, but it was late to the party already, and Destiny was dominating the market. And it's just so weird. And you could see some elements of that Anthem gameplay in Mass Effect Andromeda. I played Mass Effect Andromeda, and perhaps, you know what? Maybe that's for another time. We can talk about the Mass Effect trilogy, universe, whatever happened with Andromeda. And I'll say that the game is, like, aside from the atrocious technical state it launched in and the animations and all of that, it is a fine game. I think it's not a proper Mass Effect game, but it's a fine game. And after that, I suppose Dragon Age, which at the time, I think it wasn't even called anything yet, and then they called it Dreadwolf.
Yeah, I think so.
It was a concept. I think one of the lead developers have since said that they knew they were going to do it in the Tevinter Imperium, but that was about it. And
Hmm.
I think there's actually a very strong discussion point there. So this game was supposed to be called Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which makes a lot of sense. It was about Solus and how he was gonna tear down the veil, bring down the elves of his time from ancient Arlathan and all of that. So just also for our listeners to know, we've both played all the Dragon Age games. Actually, I remember Tag in 2011 you came over once and you had like your laptop with you and
Hmm.
we both played Dragon Age 2 together like side by side. Do you remember that?
Yes, yes, I do. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I introduced Dragon Age Origins to you.
You did. Absolutely right, you did. And I thought it looks weird and strange and I refused to play it until, completely unrelated, my mother had heard about this game and I think she had read that, oh, it's a great game for teenagers and stuff like that. And I just found it on my computer one day. And after that, I played the game 7 times and it's my favorite game ever. And I think I told you afterwards that, yeah, you were totally right. And
Yes, as any same person would do, playing the same game 7 times in a row, obviously.
yes, then, then, I,
Not
then I did the
obsessive at
rational
all.
thing. I played it 7 times in a row. I only
Yeah, I
finished
mean,
it 3 or 4 times though.
it still counts.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And
Absolutely, it does.
yeah, and it became like a very, so it became my favorite universe really from video games. And Origins is my favorite game of all time. And yeah, so I was looking forward to Solus being explored more and how that's gonna branch into things like the Blight, the Elven Gods, the Maker, the Chantry, all of that world building that Dragon Age did. And when they renamed it to Veilguard, I think that was really the first clue that this was not the game we thought it would be anymore. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. To be honest with you, I think that that was the moment things shifted for the worst, I think. And also, as a fun little tidbit, I introduced you to the franchise and to the world. I only played uh, Origins and Dragon Age 2 once each. I think I actually played Dragon Age 2 twice. I think once with a mage and once with a warrior.
Yeah.
But I remember almost nothing about the lore and the story, because if I played it the first time when I showed it to you and the first and last time, like 15 years ago, I don't have the best memory when it comes to these things. So I had to watch a video to recap the story. It was like a 1 hour long video, and I still forgot stuff. So
That's understandable because I've done like so much actual reading about Dragon Age and I still don't remember everything. And I even put together, as I've told you, like a whole D&D campaign set in Dragon Age. And even now, if you were to ask me
in
some
case you were
things,
wondering if he actually likes it.
sorry. Ah,
In case you were wondering if Odi actually likes it, he just made a D&D campaign set in the universe.
well, I have a let's say I have a predisposition, perhaps, towards the setting, which is why right now I'm sad. After a few years when Dragon Age Dreadwolf was in this limbo, I almost started wishing that it would never come out because seeing how much it got bounced around then, I kind of figured that if it comes out, it will be a letdown or it's gonna be too far from the original vision. And it makes sense because many of the original creators of Dragon Age are no longer there at BioWare. It's that simple. They left, they retired, they were fired, whatever happened, but many of them are just not there anymore.
Yeah, this is something that people maybe don't realize or don't want to realize, is that I've seen a lot of discourse online that, oh, it's BioWare's baby, basically, that, oh, how could they do this to it, and so on and so forth. But they're not the same people that made that game. These are other people. So it's not the same Bioware that we maybe fondly reminisce about. This is just the name of the company, but the people and management and everything are different. So
Yeah.
maybe it's also partly all for our fault for having maybe too big, or I don't know how to say it, unreasonable expectations maybe towards it.
I would contradict you there just a bit because we just got Baldur's Gate 3 last year. And when that happened and it got the overwhelming positive reception that it did, so many AAA studios came out and said, "Oh, Larian is not the norm. You can have those expectations. Don't be unreasonable, gamers," and all of that. And
Oh
to
yeah, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
to a degree, I can get it because, well, Baldur's Gate was in early access for 3 years, right? And I
Uh-huh.
don't know how many development years before even going to early access. So yes, BG3 is a product of many, many years and a lot of iteration. The Dragon Age the Veilguard is also the product of 10 years, one way or another.
Yeah, and isn't Larian a smaller studio compared to what BioWare is?
Sorry?
Isn't Larian a smaller studio?
Oh yeah, they are. They definitely are. And that's another thing. BioWare were a huge company and are, and they're owned by Electronic Arts. And we all
Which we all
know
know
how big EA is.
absolutely.
And in fact, so from a numbers perspective, Dragon Age Inquisition in 2014, the development cost was $150 million, and it sold around 12 million copies. We can assume that Veilguard cost at least also $150 million, but let's be real, with inflation and with the economy nowadays, probably way more, right? Maybe at least 200. Now, the top concurrent players on Steam for the Veilguard release is around 84,000 people. If you multiply that by 4, because let's also take into account the EA Play Launcher, PlayStation, Xbox. So um let's be how should I say? Let's 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 assume there's at least as many players on the other platforms too. So that
I think it
comes
was
up.
the most pre-ordered game on the PlayStation Store, if I'm not mistaken. So it should have
Okay. And
at least as many players.
fair point, and it on Steam it was also the most wish listed, even above the new Call of Duty.
Wow,
Yeah,
I'm so
right.
shocked.
But again, I looked at the numbers just today, and yeah, top player count ever was like 80, let's say 85,000. It was 84 something. Even if you add all of those up and you assume it's kind of the same, that comes up to about 370,000 players, and the game is $60. So that's around what, $21 million. So you can easily call it a huge commercial failure at this stage.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, if you go by the numbers, which I might be correct, I might be off, but this is only if you look at it as a product that either sells well or doesn't sell well. But let's start maybe deep diving into what actually BioWare has delivered to us, because here on our
Yeah,
podcast we talk about gaming also as an industry, but mostly as a passion. Would you like to share your thoughts first?
sure, I can start with my opinion about it. So we're 15, 16 minutes into the video and we start talking about the game now. Okay, that's a new record probably for us, maybe. So I don't know, it feels a bit disappointing. That would be my first statement because I've been waiting to play a game for quite a long time, something that really like captures my attention, and I couldn't find anything for the past few months that really grabs my attention. And maybe this is a flaw of mine, but art style and art direction really matter to me. I don't want necessarily photorealistic graphics. I'm not necessarily into that, but I want to make sure that when I look at the screen, it's something that I like to see. So art style and art direction are important to me. And the first thing that I noticed is that I'm not really fond of how the characters look,
Mhm.
and not necessarily because it looks bad or anything like that, but the style is very uncanny because of that weird mix between like Pixar animation and realism, because the characters do kind of look real, but with a fi- very deep filter on them. Like you take a Snapchat filter or something like that, and you put it on top of them. It's like Play-Doh. I think I might have mentioned it. It feels like they're made out of Play-Doh. And whenever I look at the characters, they just look off. Even though, from what I could see, the environments are very nice. It actually looks amazing in some of the screenshots and videos that I've seen. Yeah, full disclosure, uh, we did not get the game. We are just talking out of what we've seen online. We will give it a try. That's what we agreed upon. But we might wait for a sale or something like that before. And getting back on the topic, from that point of view, it's already a no towards maybe for me when just by looking at it, because the previous art style, even though it wasn't super detailed or realistic, it still had its charm in my opinion, but this one just feels off. And I've seen a video, I think a few months ago or a month ago before the release, and one of the major issues was that they made their heads bigger, and I didn't notice this until somebody made a video on YouTube fixing, in quotation marks, the announcement trailer, and it made their heads smaller, and it looked so much better. That's just something that I noticed and I wanted to point out. Also, the gameplay looks fun. Honestly, I've seen maybe some people saying that, oh, it's boring or it looks repetitive, but I've seen some videos talking about all the subclasses that you can go for, that you can just switch the play style if you do not like it, because there are three subclasses for each major class. And I think the combat looks fun. Honestly, like no joke, probably the best I've seen Dragon Age be, because before this it was more strategic and more, maybe you had to think more about what you want to do. Here it's more action oriented, which is honestly down my alley more. I'm more of an action RPG type of person. So that I like. And let's also address the elephant in the room, because probably that's what you guys also want us to hear talk about. And I'm pretty sure Odi has some strong opinions about this too. The alleged woke story
No,
or characters,
not,
so on.
not just alleged at this point. We have video proof of it, but
Okay,
yeah.
then let's okay, not alleged. The woke elements
Mm,
within the game. And in all honesty, it wouldn't bother as long as they would have been, I don't know, put in the game better. But they're not. They're just shoehorned in. It doesn't make any sense for a medieval fantasy game for a character to say transgender or I misgendered somebody. I mean, it's a fantasy game in medieval times. And these are new concepts that started appearing in the last couple of years. And it feels jarring to hear in your fantasy game characters talk like that. It's just off-putting, because at the end of the day, after a long day of work, you while after you do all the things that you have to do, so on and so forth, and you want to boot up a game, lose yourself for a few hours, maybe in a different universe where you go and save the day and so on. And you interact with the characters, some that are cool, some that you like, maybe, and you hear them saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I misgendered you," and it just instantly takes you out of it. Like, what the hell is that?
yeah,
You get me?
yeah. No,
So,
I completely agree with that because so I'll start a bit from the top and address all of your points so far. So I'll also go with some positives first. I think the combat also looks great. I very much love turn-based combat and strategy combat. I love Baldur's Gate 3. I love stuff like Total War, Age of Wonders, Civilization. But I'm also a big fan of action RPGs. You can really see the inspirations that they took from God of War and put into this game. Mind-boggling enough. And you can also see this. So the agreement, the NDA agreement from EA to the reviewers is public now on the internet because someone published it, and you can see that one of the points they brought up there is don't compare our game with God of War, which I just don't get because it's a positive comparison. It really is a good action RPG from what I've seen. I haven't played it. I most likely will. Now I'm disappointed to do so because of how it turned out, but I still want to see the culmination of the story and the characters and see all the dialogue and the interactions for myself and decide after the full experience what my complete thoughts are. But yeah, I like the combat. The environments really look awesome. This game is not really open world anymore. It kind of went back to the corridors design of Origins. I like that a lot. I don't really
yes,
like.
good point. Good
Oh,
point. I wanted to mention that too. Sorry.
yeah, you
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
You're a fan?
Yes, yes, because the Inquisition world was open, but it was empty.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when it wasn't empty, it was bloat content. So many quests
Yeah,
that
doing the same thing over and over and over again.
yeah, and the even when you talk with your companions many of the time in Inquisition, there's no like cutscene for it. It's just kind of they're standing there stiff, just blurting out dialogue. And don't get me wrong, many of it is quality dialogue, but it's so unengaging to just sit there and listen and read the text. Yeah, just like a cutscene like way of animating it and giving the characters more life would have done wonders for it. I see they fixed this with Veilguard. The fully animated dialogues are back. Now, the quality of the dialogue, we can get into that as well. But to jump back just a bit, so yeah, the world looks cool. I like the corridors. We have a lot less time now being full time employees and having other shit to do, to deal with in life. So having a more focused experience with the story. I don't want to say a good story because honestly, I'm not sure at this point. I like that, and based on what we've seen from other reviewers, that you can engage with more open content as well via side stories. So that's for me. The art style. I don't dislike how it looks. I don't think it fits Dragon Age. It's not in line with what Dragon Age has been so far, but again, not even Dragon Age 2 was in line with Dragon Age Inquisition. And then with Origins, sorry. And then Dragon Age Inquisition went a bit more realistic. It's strange, actually. It's like realistic, cartoony, if that makes any sense to you, Inquisition.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and
it does.
everything's shiny. So it's just everything's shiny in Inquisition. The textures, the hair, the skin. Now, this game, yeah, it is Pixar. It's Pixar realistic. Again, I think it looks fine, but not for a Dragon Age game. So where does that leave my opinion on it? Eh, if I were to use a word to summarize.
Yes, a technical term. Eh.
Exactly. Oh, but one thing about it, the hair physics, amazing. Like
Oh
genuinely
yeah. Oh
amazing.
yeah, 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 yeah. Those look good. I mean, I don't think I've seen a game with better hair physics than this. To
Oh,
be honest, like credit where credit's due.
yeah,
That's amazing.
absolutely. The last time I was impressed by hair physics was Tomb Raider in 2013. So just throwing that out there. And now to get to the elephant in the room, yeah, the political elements that have been integrated into the world and the narrative. I completely agree with you, Tag, that if you want to do this in your game, it's fine, but you really have to choose to understand the type of game you're making. And in this case, BioWare did not understand that they made a fantasy medieval game, a game where the threat of the world ending is very present, especially with the plot in Veilguard. And I don't see something like misgendering and pronouns to be actual issues that these people would have in their daily lives. And because this social, don't even know how to call it, social issue, social debate is so present in our daily lives now, especially being chronically online as we are. I don't want either to come back from work from a tiring day and sit down and just want to play a game, have fun, be the hero, feel like I'm doing something meaningful, impacting the world, and just seeing the same social debates that I'm seeing in real life. That's not why I play video games. You can integrate social issues correctly. In Dragon Age Origins, they made a lot of great. They presented, for example, issues like racism with the city elves and the people, the humans from Denerim. They presented religious fervor and conflict with the Chantry and the Elven gods. They presented the traditionalist dwarves and how those can react to innovation and new stuff and how that can cause conflict. But they did it in a way that fitted the world. And there's this concept that a lot of people have been speaking about, and not only about Veilguard, showing, not telling. The other Dragon Age games were able to suck you into the world and show these issues in a way that are present already in the world and you're just going through them. Dragon Age Veilguard, sadly, in this point, it's like it's lecturing you and it's trying to show you that if you don't acknowledge these aspects, you're wrong. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do absolutely. And I think that is the main issue, as you say, that before they could tell, or as not tell, sorry, show these issues through the game, through the story, you understood what they want to say, and it didn't break the immersion.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they're doing it now, it most definitely does.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, it was, I think, a very good point that show not tell is something as a storyteller. We both love D&D, and I have a campaign running with Odie and a few friends, and now he has a campaign running with a few of his other friends, and we went very deep with the world building and so on and so forth. So it is important as a storyteller, especially if you work for a big company like Bioware or whatever. That doesn't matter. If you want to make a story, it's important to be able to show the participants of the story, even if they read it or if they play it or they watch it, what you want to tell with the story. You don't have to spell it out for them
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
as we consume media, I don't think we're that dumb, or I hope we're not that dumb to not understand a more nuanced approach. No?
And I have the perfect example for this for others that have played Dragon Age Origins too much, like myself. There's this section in Origins where you're in the dwarven kingdom of the city of Orzammar and you're going in the deep roads, so just underground where the darkspawn are mostly, and you face this enemy, the Broodmother. Now, the dialogue going to the Broodmother is extremely dark, and it showcases the very violent way in which broodmothers are made within the universe, but it's not being told to you like a character isn't sitting there and is lecturing you about this aggression issue that's also present in real life. You find that out through exploring the level and through hearing some really dark and well written dialogue, and you kind of get that feeling of being appalled and revolted by how this happens, and you want to stop it by simply engaging with the storytelling. No one has to come up to you with a tablet and say, hey, this is bad, stop this. Because I think just like when you're a child and you're being told sugar is bad for you, sugar is bad for you, sugar is bad for you. But what do you want to do? You want to eat candy because you kind of want to make your own decisions and fight against someone shoving down your throat some sort of idea. And I think if you really want to talk about something that you either view as an issue or not, that's up to you. The way to do it is not to yell at the player.
Yes, 100%. And you're right. That's not the point, or that should not be the point. Because at the end of the day, when you go through a story, like the Veilguard, for example, it is important that these issues, if you really want to talk about these more modern issues, is to be able to acknowledge them yourself, not to be directly told that, yo, it's not good to do this
Hmm.
or it's bad to do that other thing. You have to be able to draw your own conclusions because that's part of the fun in a way, in my opinion at least, because it just sucks that they don't give you the credit that you can figure it out by yourself. And it from the videos I've seen, it kind of hits the nail over and over and over again with these ideas. And there are recaps of the story over and over again after every quest. They remind you that, oh yes, you did this, and then you do something else, oh you did that. You don't need to spell it out for me every single time. I just want to explore and understand at my own pace. But if
Yeah,
you keep telling me that blah 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 blah, 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 then I will lose interest.
it does kind of insult the player's intelligence this way, and this was one aspect that skill up also outlined in his review. You guys probably know skill up as well. He's become really big now. He was saying that it always feels like the game talks to you as though you're a child and you talk to others as though they are children. However, I will disagree with just one point. Skill up has said that you just talk to your companions like they are kindergarten teachers and kindergarten students, and this is not realistic. I disagree. I think you generally have to talk to people like you're in kindergarten in life. So that's not unrealistic. That just works. But his point was tied to something where I think he's right. He showcased this kind of conflict, brooding conflict between two of the companions, and it seems like something would start between them when they're like, "I you know what? Actually, yeah, this threat we're facing together is much more important, so we're gonna just put that aside." And I think in life, some people are capable of doing that, but some people really aren't capable of doing that. And for the sake of great storytelling, having all of your companions just get along or have minor fights that are always easily solved with the kindergarten approach, that's not realistic anymore. And that's just trying to sell you a false interpretation of reality. And good art imitates life, I think.
Hmm. I think you're right. It's indeed something that I've also encountered online, looking through videos and trying to understand more about the game. Is that indeed all the characters seem too cookie cutter and just too safe? They're all nice guys and they're all very good with themselves. And as you said, maybe some super minor conflicts, but like really tiny things that even get resolved in the next conversation. And it's just like you do not even see how it got resolved, it just got resolved. And they, I always liked nuanced characters because it makes them more believable, more interesting. And I'm not saying that every character has to be super nuanced and layered and tragic backstory, so on. Because sometimes it's good to have just a good character and a bad character, just for the sake of being good or bad. But if all the characters are like that, then they don't have any personality. They just look different and that's it. And maybe they talk differently. But bottom line is that they're the same. And I'm not sure if Skill Up or Mortismo made a point about the Necromancer, if you remember.
Yeah, yeah, the skill up.
Skill Up then, yeah, because that might be an interesting concept in of its own. That when you think of a necromancer, you automatically associate it with maybe a villain or a bad character, somebody that controls the dead. And even that character, they made him a gentleman, a very suave, soft-spoken old man, which it's not a bad idea in my opinion. I think it's pretty fun. But if even that type of character is just all nice and smiley and so on, then how can other characters be a bit more rude? Okay, look, this is the word that I was looking for and finally came to me: flawed.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the characters are just too good, they're too nice.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the Pixar art style as well. I mean, sure, there are sections from what I've seen in the game where it's a bit more dark, it's a bit more bloody. It's hinting at the dark fantasy that Dragon Age used to be. But if just as you said, even the Necromancer character is actually just a lovely chap with a cute skeleton as his assistant, you're straying too far away from the game that you pretend to be making, Dragon Age. And this is another complaint that people had about the game and about the dialogue of the characters and the characters themselves. There's this word I came across which I think really fits here. They were talking especially People were talking especially about Belara, the elf, but I think it
Hmm.
can apply to the others too. They were saying that they're too adorkable. And
Oh yeah.
honestly, yeah. So before the game launched, I forget sadly who I was watching on YouTube, but he was saying that it reminds him a lot of God of War combined with Guardians of the Galaxy. And to that I say yes, he's right. And the thing
Yeah,
is,
now that you mention is, yes, it makes complete sense.
right? And the thing is, I loved God of War. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. Looking at Dragon Age the Veilguard just from that perspective, oh, you have the combat that I enjoy. I enjoy that type of combat, and then you have that cast of characters with the Guardians of the Galaxy energy. I think that's a good game in itself, but it's not what Dragon Age should be because what you're doing, for example, in Origins you had Alistair, or in Dragon Age 2 you had Varric. Everyone loves Varric, right? The dwarf. But you don't want every
Bianca.
companion to be Varric because then you lose the essence of every character. As you've said, you don't have the flaws anymore. You don't have the character growth to show that they've progressed, that time has passed, that improvements have been made. And while I really don't have a problem with the type of like humor in the dialogue in Veilguard or with the characters being the way that they are, it doesn't fit the game, the setting, not when everything's so homogenous. And that's just really disappointing because you think back to Inquisition too, and you had so different characters there. You had well, Solus, of course, who's the main villain here, but apparently he's barely in the game, which is also a
He
huge
was
red flag.
supposed to be the main villain, but
Yeah,
it's not.
supposed to be, right? But I suppose they kind of wrote him out so that you have more time with your companions because it's all about the Veilguard now, and you're the goody two shoes who's stopping the two elven gods, Elgarnan and Gilanen. And that reinforces the fact that you're the goody two shoes and your companions are the goody two shoes, and the nuance is taken out. And the thing is, the more I talk about this, the more sad I am about wanting to play this game because I do want to play this game, but I don't want to be that disappointed in it.
I know what you mean, and at the end of the day, I will also play it. I still want to see for myself what it's about because I've seen a lot of reviews online, and even if you guys are gonna listen to us talk about it, and you might say that oh they have good points or they don't have so good points. The important thing is that you make up your mind for yourself, just as we will, and we will play the game, and we will then say for sure yes I liked it or I disliked it or whatever.
Mm.
And my closing point is I think it has all the right pieces for a great game, but they're not aligned properly. It's like the puzzle, it's complete, but the pieces are not in the right place. Because
And
just as you said, good combat like God of War, a cool, at least in concept, companion characters like in Guardians of the Galaxy with more quippy humor and so on and so forth. So the pieces are okay, they're just not in the right place.
exactly.
And maybe not the right place for Dragon
No,
Age.
exactly, because that type of quippy, adorkable, almost cringe but still funny humor, I like that because I like the Marvel movies. I like playing Spider-Man. I like playing Guardians of the Galaxy. I want that there. In Dragon Age, the thing is, I will kind of still like it because I like the style, but I can also recognize it shouldn't be there, or at least not in that quantity. Because in Origins, like you had that from Alistair, the Grey Warden companion, but you also had the witch Morrigan to balance him out a lot, to the point of having lines like, "No, well, now we have a dog in the party, and Alistair is still the dumbest." You know,
Yes.
there was an endearing, funny relation between the characters, and actually, Alistair and Morgan kind of disliked each other forever, even in Inquisition. And my fear is that from the footage I've seen right now in Veilguard, everyone just gets along, and that's that makes for a worse story, really.
It's unrealistic.
It's not. And again, here maybe towards the closing of the video, I do want to point out again that this is probably tied in with the fact that BioWare wanted to put in the ideology aspect inside the game to the point where you can even like pick up a mirror and have a button that literally, okay, I don't want to lie by mistake, but I think it actually says gender identity options or something like that. So in this crusade of being very inclusive, I think they forgot why we really loved the games to begin with. And we are at the end of our 20s, but I think us who played the original games are not really the target audience here anymore. And that just makes me sad.
Weird, but yes.
Yeah, it's they just forgot their core audience, I guess. And from what I've seen in the footage, I think you have an option to not engage with the content that's more towards the ideology rather than the game, but the that's not something to praise them for. The issue is you still have those opportunities to just engage with writing and dialogue that's taken from modern times and inserted into a game which should not be talking about those topics, because it's one thing to promote inclusivity by think something like there's the Grey Warden companion in Veilguard who they made black, and Belara is visibly more Asian. I think that's perfectly fine. Okay, sure, yeah, why not? This, I mean, it's a fantasy world. Why couldn't elves be like that? Sure, it makes sense, and I think it's a clean way to kind of give everyone a part in the world. And it's another thing, like you've said earlier, to include words like transgender, which just do not feel organic at all in that world.
Yep, I think that this would be our conclusion on Dragon Age the Veilguard. Maybe it's a flawed game, but a good game. Or maybe it's a flawed bad game. That still remains to be seen for us at least. I know that a lot of people made up their mind maybe even before they even started or the game. So
Yeah.
it's important to uh, have an ounce of critical thinking in these situations. Don't just take what funny person on the internet says just to take it in just like as it is. Put it through a filter first, or try to see for yourself. That's the most important thing, and that's why we like to talk about games and these type of topics, because we get to talk about them as we would normally do, and maybe we help other people to form opinions. But at the end of the day, we want these opinions to be formed by the person who's watching, not just by listening to us and agreeing 100%. Yes, these two guys on the internet, yes, they know their shit, they're right. No, make up your own mind.
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you 100% agree with anything that you hear, maybe take a step back and walk through all of those arguments again, because surely there might be things you think at least partially differently on. And we're not telling you here like the game or dislike the game. We're just talking about what we think is good and what we think is
Mm-hmm.
bad in it. At the end of the day, you will vote with your wallet, right? Based on what you believe. And even if we will, I mean, I will most likely play the game. I think you will likely play the game at some point, maybe when it's on sale. Even
Yeah.
then, even if you paid for it, if you didn't like it in the end, you can review it and show your opinion that way. If you like it, awesome. You bought something, you liked it, that's great. And don't let anyone tell you do not like it.
Yes, this is something that maybe we tend to forget, especially in this time when opinions are everywhere on the internet, and it takes little to no effort to just go online and see what other people talk or say about a certain subject. So if you like something, don't let anybody to tell you otherwise. Even if you like a game that universally is disliked, that doesn't matter, because what matters it's your time with that game or with that book, movie, whatever. And if you enjoyed it, that means it was quality time for you, and nobody can take that away. So
Yeah.
make up your own minds, guys. And if you like the game, let us know. If you dislike the game, let us know.
Mm-hmm. And my only piece of advice there would be when you analyze the game, I think it's very important to see what you like and dislike with it, but also what elements make the game great by fitting into what the game should be. And even if something doesn't really fit into the game, you can still like it, right? But I think that distinction is important. Hey, I think this game sucks, but it's been reviewed very well. A lot of people like it. Or I think this game is really good, but I recognize that maybe from a design perspective, dialogue, story, whatever, it's not the best that it could be compared to its competition. So those conclusions are up to you in the end, but I think our point tag and mine tags and mine think about all the aspects about it and then decide whether it's worth your time.
Exactly, I agree 100%. And this is all we want in the end, just to have a conversation, tell our points. Maybe some of you agree with them, maybe somebody some of you don't, but it's fun. And that is what we want at the end of the day, something that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And to me, even for the past Dragon Ages, the most fun to me was Origins, the characters, the story, the dialogue. 2 was fine, Inquisition was fine. Uh, maybe I revisited them recently, actually this year, and I found more stuff to appreciate now. Maybe also because of the age, right? We grew up a bit, and you get new perspectives on things. And when we actually get to play the game, we're gonna have a very a complete impression on it. And if you think there's reason for you to play it and you can, yeah, afford the cost, I think you should do that and form your opinions then, because whatever you see online, whatever you hear us rather speak about, it will not be the full experience until you go through it yourself.
Yep. And I think that for the fifth time, trying to close off this video.
Right, let's do that.
So, guys, hope you enjoyed our absolutely well thought of debate with definite points and nothing random.
Hmm. We
And
planned this, of
hopefully,
course.
100%. It was not spontaneous at all, last minute, so on. But if you enjoyed it, leave a like. If you didn't enjoy it, leave a like. And see you in the next one. Hopefully, this will be posted still in 2024. Fingers
No,
crossed.
no promises, no promises. Okay, promises. We have to commit. I have to commit.
Yes, we have a good track record for that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Our two viewers are going to be very upset if we don't upload.
Can't disappoint those. Very important.
See you in the next one, guys.
Bye, guys.